विष्णुं गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवस्त्रवस्त्रमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पत आनुशृण्वोति विसीदसादनं महागणाधिपतये नमः। ओम केशवाय नमः, ओम नारायणाय नमः, ओम माधवाय नमः, ओम गोविंदाय नमः, ओम विष्णुवे नमः, मत्सूदनाय नमः, त्रिविक्रमाय नमः, वामन श्रीधराय नमः, ऋषिकेशाय नमः, पद्मनाभाय नमः, दामोदराय नमः, संकर्षणाय नमः, वासुदेवाय नमः, प्रद्युम्नाय नमः, निरुद्धाय नमः, पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः, अदोक्षराय नमः, नारायणाय नमः, अच्युताय नमः, जनार्दनाय नमः, उपेन्द्राय नमः, हरे नमः, श्री कृष्णाय नमः। हरि ओम। Today chapter is 11th chapter of Srimad Mahabhagavata Purana. In this chapter, Lord Krishna visits Brindavana. That's the first time he is going to Brindavana from Gokula. So the chapter starts with the Shukavacha Gopanandadaya Shrutva Dramayo Patato Ramam Tatra Jukmam Kurusheshta Nirgata Bhayasankitaha. Sukha Maharshi is telling Parikshita Maharaja, when the Amala Arjuna trees fell, all the coward men in the neighborhood, fearing the fierce sound and fearing thunderbolts, went to the spot. The people heard the noise of this big tree falling down, made a big noise, and a lot of people frightened to hear the sound and went to the spot. They came to see the spot. What happened? Bhumya nipatitau tatra dudrushyayamarjunam babbramustada vijnaya laksham patana karanam. There they saw the Gokula Vasis, Gokula people from Gokula came to see the fallen Amala Arjuna trees on the ground. But they were bewildered because even though they could directly perceive the trees had fallen, they could not trace out the cause of their feeling the tree has fallen. They don't know the cause of the why the tree has fallen down. Considering all the circumstances, had this been done by Krishna, he was standing on the spot, and his playmate described that this had been done by him. Had Krishna actually done this, or were these merely stories? This was a cause of bewilderment. Ulukalam vikarshantam dhamna baddancha balakam kasyedam kuta ascharya iti kataraha. These are the shlokas written by Sri Vedavyasa Maharishi. And so the third shloka meaning is Krishna was bound by the rope to the ulakula, the martyr, the stone martyr, the wooden martyr which he was dragging. But how could he have pulled down the trees? Who had actually done it? Where was the source of this incident? Considering all these astonishing things, the coward men of Gokula were doubtful and bewildered. The coward men in the Gokula were very much agitated because the child Krishna, after all, had been standing between the two trees. And if by chance the trees had fallen upon him, he would have been smashed under the tree. But he was standing as he was, and still the things had happened. So who had done all this? How could these events have happened in such a wonderful way? These considerations were some of the reasons they were agitated and bewildered and surprised. They thought, however, that by chance Krishna had been saved by God so that nothing had happened to him. Bala Buchurneti Neti Tirgatkala Mukalukalam Vikashata Madhagena Purusha Vespachakshahi. Then all the coward boys said, it is Krishna who has done this. When he was in between the two trees, the martyr fell crosswise. Krishna dragged the martyr, and the two trees fell down after Krishna dragging the martyr. After that, two beautiful men came out of the tree. We have seen this with our own eyes. Krishna's playmates wanted to inform Krishna's father of the exact situation by explaining that not only did the trees break, but out of the broken trees came two beautiful men All these things were happened. They said, we have seen them with our own eyes. Because of intense paternal affection, the cowherd men headed by Nanda could not believe that Krishna could have uprooted the trees in such a wonderful way. Therefore, they could not put their faith in the words of the boys. Some of the men, however, were in doubt. Since Krishna was predicted to equal Narayana, they thought it might be that he could have done it. One view was that it was impossible for a small boy like Krishna this to have done such a thing as pulling down the trees. But there were doubts because Krishna had been predicted to equal to Narayana. Therefore, the cowherd men were in a dilemma. When Nanda Maharaja saw his own son bound by the ropes to the wooden martyr and dragging it, he smiled and released Krishna from his bonds. Nanda Maharaja was surprised that Yashoda, Krishna's mother, could have bound her beloved child in such a way. Krishna was exchanging love with her. How then could she have been so cruel as to bind him to the wooden mortar? Nanda Maharaja understood this exchange of love and therefore he smiled and released Krishna. In other words, as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, binds a living entity in a fruitive activities, he binds Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaja in parental affection. This is his pastime. The gopis would say, if you dance, my dear Krishna, then I shall give you half a sweetmeat. By saying these words or by clapping their hands, all the gopis encourage Krishna in different ways. At such times, although he was the supremely powerful personality of Godhead, he would smile and dance according to their desire, as if he were a wooden doll in their hands. Sometimes he would sing very loudly at their bidding. In this way, Krishna came completely under the control of the gopis. Sometimes Mother Yashoda and her gopi friends would tell Krishna, bring this article or bring that article. Sometimes they would order him to bring a wooden plank, wooden shoes, or a wooden measuring pot. And Krishna, when thus ordered by the mothers, would try to bring them. Sometimes, however, as if unable to raise the things, he would touch them and stand there just to invite the pleasure of his relatives. He would strike his body with his arms to show that he had sufficient strength to do this work. To pure devotees throughout the world who could understand his activities, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna exhibited how much he can be subdued by his devotees. His servants, in this way, he increased the pleasure of the Vrajavasis by his childhood activities. That Krishna performed childhood activities to increase the pleasure of his devotees was another transcendental humor. He exhibited these activities not only to the inhabitants of Rajabhumi, but also to others who were captivated by his external potency and opulence. Both the internal devotees who were simply absorbed in love of Krishna and the external devotees who were captivated by his unlimited potency were informed of Krishna's desire to be submissive to his servants. Once a woman selling fruit was calling, O inhabitants of Rajabhumi, if you want to purchase some fruits, come here. Upon hearing this, Krishna immediately took some grains and went to the barter as if he needed some fruits. Aborigines generally go to the villagers to sell fruits. How much the Aborigines were attached to Krishna is here described. Krishna, to show his favor to the Aborigines, would immediately go purchase fruits, bartering with the paddy in his hand, as he had seen others do. While Krishna was going to the fruit vendor, very hastily, most of the grains he was holding fell down. Nonetheless, the fruit vendor filled Krishna's hands with fruits, and her fruit basket was immediately filled with jewels and gold. While Krishna was going to the fruit vendor, very hastily, most of the grains, what he was holding in the small hands, fell down on the floor. Nonetheless, the fruit vendor filled Krishna's hands with fruits, and her fruit basket was immediately filled with jewels and gold. Krishna is so kind that if anyone offers him a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or some water, he will immediately accept it. The only condition is that these things should be offered with bhakti. Yome bhaktya prayachati. Otherwise, if one is puffed up with a false prestige, thinking I have so much opulence and I am giving something to Krishna, one is offering will not be accepted by Krishna. The fruit vendor, although a woman belonging to the poor aborigine class, dealt with Krishna with great affection, saying, Krishna, you have come to me to take some fruit in exchange for grains. All the grains have fallen, but still you may take whatever you like. Thus she filled Krishna's palms and with whatever fruits he would carry. In exchange, Krishna filled her whole basket with jewels and gold. From this incident, one should learn that for anything offered to Krishna with love and affection, Krishna can reciprocate many millions of times over, both materially and spiritually. The basic principle involved is an exchange of love. Therefore, Krishna teaches in Bhagavad Gita, Yad karoshi yad asnasi, yad juhoshi dadvasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurusva madarpanam, tat kurusva madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. So whatever Krishna says there, whatever you want to do, austerities, giving away, everything, whatever you want to eat, everything you offer to me, and then do what you want with love and affection. With one should try to give something to Krishna from one source of income. Then one's life will be successful. Krishna is full in all opulences. He does not need anything from anyone. But if one is prepared to give something to Krishna, that is for one's own benefit. The example given in this connection is that when one's real face is decorated, the reflection of one's face is automatically decorated. Similarly, if we try to serve Krishna with all our opulences, we, as parts and parcels, are reflections of Krishna, will become happy in exchange. Krishna is always happy, for he is Atmarama, fully satisfied with his own opulence. Once after the uprooting of the Amala Arjuna trees, Rohini Devi went to call Rama, Balarama and Krishna, who had both gone to the riverside and were playing with other boys with deep attention. Because of being too attached to playing with our other boys, Balarama and Krishna did not return upon being called by Rohini. Therefore, Rohini sent Mother Yashoda to call them back, because Mother Yashoda was more affectionate to Krishna and Balarama. Yashodam Resiyam Asa. These very words show that since Krishna and Balarama did not care to return in response to the order of Rohini, Rohini thought if Yashoda called, they would have to return. For Yashoda was more affectionate to Balarama and Krishna. Krishna and Balarama, being attached to their play, were playing with the other boys, although it was very late. Therefore, Mother Yashoda called them back for lunch. Because of her ecstatic love and affection for Krishna and Balaram, milk flowed from her breast. The word Ajohvita means calling them again and again. Ajohavit. Krishna and Balarama, she called, please come back. You are late for your lunch. You have played sufficiently, come back. Mother Yashoda said, my darling, you must be very tired because of hunger and the fatigue of playing so long. There is no need to play anymore. This is what Yashoda requested Krishna to come back. My dear Baladeva, best of our family, please come immediately with your younger brother Krishna. You both ate in the morning and now you ought to eat something more. Nanda Maharaja, the king of Raja, is now waiting to eat. Oh, my dear son Balarama, he is waiting for you. Therefore, come back to please us. All the boys playing with you and Krishna should now go to their own house. All the boys who were playing with you and Krishna should go to their own homes. That's what Yashoda said. It appears that Nanda Maharaja regularly took his food with his two sons, Krishna and Balarama. Yashoda told other boys, now you should go to your homes. Father and son generally sit together. So Mother Yashoda requested Krishna and Balaram to return, and she advised the other boys to go to home so that their parents would not have to wait for them. Mother Yashoda further told Krishna, my dear son, because of playing all day, your body has become covered with dust and sand. Therefore, come back, take your bath, and clean yourself. Today, the moon is conjoined with the auspicious star of your birth, Rohini's birth. Therefore, be pure and give cows in charity to the Brahmanas. It is custom of Vedic culture that whenever there is an auspicious ceremony, one should give valuable cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Therefore, Mother Yashoda requested Krishna, instead of being enthusiastic in playing, now please come and enthusiastic in charity, just to see how all your playmates of your own age have been cleansed and decorated with the beautiful ornaments by their mothers. You should come here, and after you have taken your bath, eaten your lunch, and been decorated with ornaments, you may play with your friends again. My dear Maharaja Parikshit, Shukamarshi is telling with intense love and affection, Mother Yashoda, Krishna's mother, considered Krishna, who was at the peak of all opulences, to be her own son. Thus she took Krishna by the hand along with the Balarama and brought them home, where she performed her duties by fully bathing them, dressing them, and feeding them. Krishna is always neat, clean, and opulent, and does not need to be washed, bathed, or dressed. At Mother Yashoda, because of affection, considered him our ordinary child and did her duties of a mother to keep son brilliant. Shuka Maharshi continued, then one time, having seen the great disturbances in Brindavana, all the elderly persons among the covered men, headed by Nanda Maharaja, assembled and began to consider what to do to stop continuous disturbing situation in Vrajabhumi. Nanda Maharaja saw some disturbance in Brindavana, assembled and began to consider what to do to stop continuous disturbing situation in Vrajabhumi. At this meeting of all the inhabitants of Gokula, a covered man named Upananda, who was the most mature in age and knowledge and was very experienced according to the time, circumstances, and country, made this suggestion for the benefit of Balarama and Krishna. He said, my dear friends, the covered men, in order to do good to the place, Gokula, we should leave it because so many disturbances are always occurring here just for the purpose of killing Balarama and Krishna. Kamsa is doing so many atrocities, so many things he is doing. The child Krishna simply, by the mercy of Supreme Personality Godhead, was somehow or the other rescued from the hands of the Rakshasa and Putana, who was determined to kill him. Then again, by the mercy of Supreme Godhead, the hand caught mist falling upon the child. Then again, the demon Trinavarta, in the form of whirlwind, took the child away into the dangerous sky level height to kill him, but the demon fell down into a slab of stone. In that case, also, by the mercy of Lord Vishnu and his associates, child was saved. Even the other day, neither Krishna nor any of his playmates died from the falling of the two trees. Although the children were near the trees or even between them, this also is to be considered the mercy of Supreme Personality of Godhead. All these incidents are being caused by some unknown demon. Before he comes here to create another disturbance, it's our duty to go somewhere else with the boys until there are no more disturbances. Upananda suggested, by the mercy of Lord Vishnu, Krishna has been always saved from so many dangerous incidents. Now let us leave this place and go some other place where we may worship Lord Vishnu undisturbed. Before there is another cause of death from some demon who may attack Balarama and Krishna and us. A devotee desires only that he may execute devotional service undisturbed. Actually, we see, however, that even during the presence of Krishna, when Nanda Maharaja and the other cowherd men had the Supreme Personality of Godhead in their presence, there were disturbances. Of course, in every case, Krishna came out victorious. The instruction we may derive from this is that we should not be disturbed by so-called disturbances. There have been so many disturbances to our Krishna's conscious movement, but we cannot give up our forward march. On the contrary, people are receiving this movement very enthusiastically all over the world, and they are purchasing literature about Krishna consciousness with rebound energy, redoubled energy. Thus, there are both encouragements and disturbance. This was so even in Krishna's time. Between Nandeshwara and Mahavana is a place named Brindavana. Between Nandeshwara and Mahavana is a place named Brindavana. This place is very suitable because it is lush with grass, plants and creepers for the cows and other animals. It was nice gardens and tall mountains and is full of facilities for the happiness of all the gopas and gopis and our animals. Brindavana is situated between Nandeshwara and Mahavana. Formerly, the covered men had shifted to Mahavana, but still there were disturbances. Therefore, the covered men selected Brindavana, which was between the two villages, and decided to go there. Therefore, let us immediately go today. There is no need to wait for any further. If you agree to my proposal, let us prepare all the bullock carts and put the cows in front of us, and let us go there. Upon hearing this advice from Upananda, the covered men unanimously agreed, very nice. They said, very nice. Thus, they started out in their household affairs, placed their clothing and other paraphernalia on the carts, and immediately started for Vrindavana. Keeping all the old men, women, and children and household paraphernalia on the bullock carts, and keeping all the cows in the front, the covered men picked up their bows and arrows with a great care and sounded bugles made of horn. O King Parikshit, in this way, with the bugles vibrating all around, the cowherd men, accompanied by their priest, began their journey. In this connection, it is to be noted that although the inhabitants of Gokula were mostly cowherd men and cultivators, they knew how to defend themselves from danger, how to give protection to the women and old men, the cows and children, as well as to the Brahmanical Purohits. The cowherd women riding on the bullock carts were dressed very nicely with excellent garments, and their bodies, especially their breasts, were decorated with fresh kumkum powder. As they rode, they began to chant the great pleasure, the pastimes of Krishna. The hearing about the pastimes of Krishna and Balarama with a great pleasure, Mother Yashoda and Rohini Devi, so as not to be separated from Krishna and Balaram for even a moment, got up with them on one bullock cart. In this situation, they all looked very beautiful. It appears that Mother Yashoda and Rohini could not be separated from Krishna and Balaram even for a moment. They used to pass their time either by taking care of Krishna and Balaram or by chanting about their pastimes. The Mother Yashoda and Rohini looked very beautiful sitting in the cart going along with Krishna and Balarama. In this way, they entered Vrindavana, where it is always pleasing to live in all seasons. They made a temporary place to inhabit by placing their bullock carts around them in the shape of a half moon. As stated in the Vishnu Purana, Saktivata Parayantas Chandradharakara Samastite. Harivamsha and Vishnu Purana, there are some shlokas. There was no need to make fences all around. One side was already defended by thorn trees, and thus the thorn trees, the bullock carts, and the animals encircled the inhabitants in their temporary residence. O King Parikshit, when Balarama and Krishna saw Vrindavana, Govardhana, and the banks of the river Yamuna, they both enjoyed a great pleasure. In this way, Krishna and Balarama, acting like a small boys and talking in half-broken language, gave transcendental pleasure to all the inhabitants of Vraja. In due course of time, they became old enough to take care of the cows. In this way, Balarama and Krishna, acting like a small boys and talking in a half-broken language, gave transcendental pleasure to all the inhabitants of the Vraja. In due course of time, they became old enough to take care of the cows also. Those who were not born in the Brahmana families were not meant for academic education. The Brahmanas were trained in a literacy, academic education, and Kshatriyas were trained to take care of the state, and the Vaishyas learned how to cultivate the land and take care of the cows and calves. There was no need to waste time going to school to be falsely educated and later increase the numbers of the unemployed. Krishna and Balarama taught us by their personal behavior. Krishna took care of the cows and played with his flute, and Balarama took care of the agricultural activities with a plow in his hand. Not far away from their residential quarters, both Krishna and Balaram, equipped with all kinds of playthings, played with other covered boys and began to tend the small cows. Sometimes Krishna and Balarama would play on their flutes. Sometimes they would throw ropes and stones devised for getting fruits from the trees. Sometimes they would throw only stones, and sometimes their ankle bells tinkling. They would play football with fruits like pale and amalaki. Sometimes they would cover themselves with blankets, and sometimes imitate cows and bulls and fight with one another, roaring loudly, and sometimes they would imitate the voices of animals. In this way, they enjoyed sporting exactly like two ordinary human children. Brindavana is full of peacocks. Kujata kokila hamsa sarasa kanakarane mayarukele. The Brindavana forest is always full of cuckoos, ducks, swans, peacocks, cranes, and all monkeys. So Krishna and Balarama used to imitate the sounds of these animals and enjoy sporting. One day, while Balarama and Krishna, along with their playmates, were tending to cows on the bank of the river Yamuna, another demon arrived there desiring to kill them. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna saw the demon and assumed the form of a calf and entered among the groups of other calves, he pointed out to Balarama, "Here is another demon." Then he very slowly approached the demon as if he did not understand the demon's intention. The import of the words mugdha jiva is that although the Krishna knows everything here, he pretended that he did not understood why the demon had entered among the cows, and he informed Baladeva by a sign. Thereafter, Sri Krishna caught the demon by the hind legs and tail to twirl the demon's whole body very strongly until the demon was dead, and threw him into the top of the kapita tree, which then fell down along with the body of demon who had assumed a great form. Krishna killed the demon in such a way as to get the kapita fruits to fall, so that he and Balarama and the other boys could take advantage of the opportunity to eat the fruits. The kapita is sometimes called kshetrapala. Kapita is sometimes called kshatapala. The pulp of this fruit is very palatable. It is sweet and sour, and everyone likes it. Upon seeing the dead body of the demon, all the cowherd boys exclaimed, "Well done, Krishna! Very good, very good." thank you. In the upper planetary system, all the other gods were pleased also. And therefore, they showered flowers on the Supreme Personality of God Krishna. After killing the demon, Krishna and Balarama finished their breakfast in the morning, and while continuing to take care of the cows, they wandered here and there. Krishna and Balarama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who maintained the entire creation, now took charge of the cows as if covered boys. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkatam. Krishna's daily business here in this material world is to kill the dushkris. This did not hamper his daily affairs, for it was routine work for him. While he tended the cows on the bank of the river Yamuna, 2 or 3 incidents took place every day. And although these were serious, killing the demons one after another appeared to be his daily routine work. One day, all the boys, including Krishna and Balarama, each boy taking his own group of cows, brought the cows to a reservoir of water, desiring to allow them to drink. After the animals drank water, the boys drank water there also. Right by the reservoir, the boys saw a gigantic body resembling a mountain peak broken and struck down by a thunderbolt. They were afraid even to see such a huge living being. That great-bodied demon was named Bhakasura. He had assumed the body of a duck with a very sharp beak. Having come there, he immediately swallowed Krishna. So the Krishna had gone into the Bhakasura's body. When Balarama and the other boys saw that Krishna had been devoured by the gigantic duck, they became almost unconscious, like senses without life. Although Balarama can do everything because of intense affection for his brother, he was momentarily bewildered. A similar thing is stated to have happened in connection with the Rukmini Harana, the kidnapping of Rukmini. When Krishna, after kidnapping Rukmini, was attacked by all the kings, Rukmini was momentarily bewildered until the Lord took the proper step. Krishna, who was the father of Lord Brahma, but who was acting as the son of covered man, became like fire, burning the root of the demon's throat, and the demon Bhakasura immediately disgorged him. When the demon saw that Krishna, although having been swallowed, was unarmed, he immediately attacked Krishna again with his sharp beak. Although Krishna is always as soft as lotus, within the throat of the Bhakasura, he created a burning sensation of being hotter than fire. Although Krishna's whole body is sweeter than sugar candy, Bhakasura tasted bitterness and therefore immediately vomited Krishna back. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, ye ete mam prapadyante tham tattva bhajamyaham. When Krishna is accepted as an enemy, he becomes the most intolerable enemy. He becomes the most intolerable object for the non-devotee who cannot tolerate Krishna within or without. This is shown in the example of Bhakasura. Here, this is shown by the example of Bhakasura. So, Bhakasura put Krishna out of his mouth, and Krishna came out safe. When Krishna, the leader of the Vaishnavas, saw that demon Bhakasura, the friend of Kamsa, has enduring to attack him with his arms, he captured the demon by the 2 halves of the beak, and in the presence of all the covered boys, Krishna very easily bifurcated both upper and lower jaw of the duck, as a child splits a blade of virana grass. By thus killing the demon Bhakasura, Krishna very much pleased the denizens of heaven. The Devatas in the heaven also be happy by killing the Bhakasura. At that time, the celestial denizens of the higher planetary system showered Mallika Pushpa, flowers grown in the Nandana Khana, upon Krishna, the enemy of Bhakasura. They also congratulated him by sounding celestial kettle drums and conch shells and by offering prayers. Seeing this, the cowherd boys were struck with wonder. Just as the senses are pacified when consciousness and life return, so when Krishna was freed from this danger, all the boys, including Balarama, thought that their life had been restored. They embraced Krishna in good consciousness, and then they collected their own calves and returned to Vrajabhumi, where they declared the incident loudly. They embraced Krishna in good consciousness, and then they collected their own calves and returned to Vrajabhumi, where they declared the incident loudly. It was the practice of inhabitants of Vrajabhumi to compose poetry about the incidents that occurred in the forest. When Krishna performed his different activities of killing the asuras, they would compose all the stories in poetry or have this done by professional poets, and then they would sing about these incidents. Thus, it is written here that the boys sang very loudly. When the cowherd men and women heard about killing of Bhakasura in the forest, they were very much astonished. Upon seeing Krishna and hearing the story, they received Krishna very eagerly, thinking that Krishna and the other boys had returned from the mouth of death. Thus they looked upon Krishna and the boys with silent eyes, not wanting to turn their eyes aside now that the boys are safe. Because of intense love of Krishna, the cowherd men and women simply remained silent, thinking Krishna and Balarama and the other boys are all safe. The cowherd men and women looked upon Krishna, and the boys did not desire to turn their eyes aside. The cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaja, began to contemplate. It's very astonishing that although this boy Krishna has many times faced many varied causes of death, the grace of the Supreme Personal Godhead, it was these causes of fear that were killed instead of him. The cowherd men innocently, although the cowherd men in Vrajabhumi innocently thought, because our Krishna is innocent, the causes of death that appeared before him were themselves killed instead of Krishna. This is the greatest grace of the Supreme Personality Godhead Vishnu. They thought like that. Although the causes of death, the Daityas were very fierce. They could not kill this boy Krishna. Rather, because they came to kill innocent boys, as soon as they approached, they themselves were killed, exactly like fleas attacking a fire. Then the Maharaja innocently thought, perhaps this boy Krishna formerly killed all these demons, and therefore in this life they are envious and are attacking him. But Krishna is a fire, and they are flies, and in the fight between the fire and the flies, the fire is always victorious. Frightening is always taking place between the demons and the power of Supreme Personality. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha chadushkritam. Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 8th sloka. Anyone who is against the control of Supreme Personality of Godhead must be killed. Life after life, ordinary living beings are subject to karma, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always victorious over the demons. The words of persons in full knowledge of Brahman never become untrue. It is very wonderful that whatever Gargamuni predicted, we are now actually experiencing in all detail. The purpose of human life is indicated in the Brahma Samhita, in Brahma Sutra. Atota Brahma Jijnasaha. To make one's life perfect in the past, present, and future, one must learn about Brahman. Because of intense affection, Nanda Maharaja could not understand Krishna as he is. Gargamuni was able to know everything past and present and future. By studying the Vedas, but Nanda Maharaja could not understand Krishna directly. Because of his intense love for Krishna, he forgot who Krishna was and could not understand Krishna's potency. Although Krishna is Narayana himself, Gargamuni did not disclose this to Nanda Maharaja when he did the naming ceremony. Thus, Nanda Maharaja appreciated the words of Gargamuni, but because of his deep affection and respect, he could not understand who Krishna was, although Gargamuni had said that Krishna's qualities would be exactly like those of Narayana. In this way, all the covered men headed by Nanda Maharaja enjoyed the topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balarama with great transcendental pleasure, and they could not even perceive material tribulations. Here is an instruction about the result of studying or discussing the Krishna Leelas that appear in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sadhyo Hrudaya Avrutatyetra Kritibihi Susrosubis Tat Kshamat. Nanda Maharaja and Yashoda in Brindavana appeared like ordinary persons of this material world, but they never felt the tribulations of this world, although they sometimes met many dangerous situations created by the demons. This is a practical example. If we follow in the footsteps of Nanda Maharaja and the Gopas, we can all be happy simply by discussing the activities of Krishna. Vyasa Maharishi has given the literature so that everybody may be understood one's transcendental position simply by discussing Bhagavat Katha. Even at the present moment, everyone everywhere can be happy and free from material tribulations by following Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no need austerities and penances, which in this age are very difficult to perform. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore declared Sarvottama Snapanam Varam Vidyate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. By our Krishna consciousness movement, we are trying to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam so that everyone and anyone in any part of the world can be absorbed in the Krishna consciousness movement by chanting and hearing about the activities of Krishna and be free from all material tribulations. In this way, Krishna and Balarama passed their childhood age in Vrajabhumi by engaging the activities of childish play, such as playing hide and seek, constructing a make-believe bridge on the ocean, and jumping here and there like monkeys. Thus, and the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 10th canto, 11th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled the childhood pastimes of Krishna after coming to Vrindavana, his chapter is finished. So now we are going to the 12th chapter. In the 12th chapter, Aghasura will be killed. Aghasura is another Asura. They are going to kill Aghasura now in this chapter. This text, Shluka Uvacha, starts with Shuka Maharishi telling, Kvachidvanashaya manodudruddajat prataha samuttaya vayasya vatsapan prabodhayan shringaravena charuna vinargato vatsa puruso saraharihi. That's the first sloka of the 12th chapter, and the chapter is named as Aghasurana Uddhara. Shuka Maharishi Goswami continued, walking one day, Krishna decided to take his breakfast as a picnic in the forest. Having risen early in the morning, he blew his bugle made of horn and woke all the other boys and cows with its beautiful sound, and Krishna and the boys, keeping their respective groups of cows before them, proceeded from Vrajabhumi to the forest. At that time, hundreds and thousands of cowherd boys came out of their respective homes in Vrajabhumi and joined Krishna, keeping before them their hundreds and thousands of groups of cows and cows. The boys were very beautiful, and they were equipped with lunch bags, bugles, flutes, and sticks for controlling the cows. Along with the cowherd boys and their own groups of cows, Krishna came out with an unlimited number of cows assembled. Then all the boys began to sport in the forest in a greatly playful spirit. In this verse, the words Krishna, Vatsair, Ankitaha are significant. The word Asankyata means unlimited. Krishna's cows were unlimited. Asankyata means large number of. We may speak of hundreds, thousands, tens and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, trillions, tens of trillions, and so on. But when we go further to speak numbers impossible for us to count, we are speaking an unlimited number, such as unlimited numbers are indicated here by the word asankyataya. Krishna is unlimited, his potency is unlimited, his cows and cows are unlimited, and his space is unlimited. Therefore, he is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Parabrahman. The word Brahman means unlimited, and Krishna is the supreme unlimited Parabrahman. Therefore, we should not consider the statements of this verse to be mythological. They are factual, it has happened, but inconceivable. Krishna can accommodate an unlimited number of cows and an unlimited measurement of space. This is neither mythological nor false. But if we study Krishna's potency with our limited knowledge, the potency will never be possible to understand. Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na behaved grahyam indriyai bhakti rasamrata sindhu. Our senses cannot perceive how he could keep an unlimited number of cows and calves and have unlimited space in which to do so. But this is answered in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Sri Sanatana Goswami in the Brihad Bhagavatamritam states that since everything about Krishna is unlimited, nothing is impossible for him. It is in this sense that we have to undergo this verse. Text number 4. Palapravalasta Bhakasumana Pichidhatu Bihi Kancha Gunjamane Swarna Bhushita Apya Bhushayan. Although all these boys were already decorated by their mothers with ornaments of kacha, gunja, pearls, and gold, when they went into the forest, they further decorated themselves with fruits, green leaves, bunches of flowers, peacock feathers, and soft minerals. They collected all this in the forest. All the cowherd boys used to steal one another's lunch bags. When a boy came to understand that his bag had been taken away, the other boy would throw it farther away to a more distant place, and those standing there would throw it still further. When the proprietor of the bag became disappointed, the other boys would laugh. The proprietor would cry, and then the bag would be returned. This is the kind of playing and stealing between the boys in the cowherd boys they are doing in the forest. Sometimes Krishna would go to a somewhat distant place to see the beauty of the forest. Then all the other boys would run to accompany him, each one saying, I shall be the first to run and touch Krishna. I shall touch Krishna first. In this way, they enjoyed the life of repeatedly touching Krishna. All the boys would be differently engaged. Some boys blew their flutes and others blew bugles made of horn. Some imitated the buzzing of the bumblebees and others imitated the voice of the cuckoo bird. Some boys imitated flying birds by running after the birds' shadows on the ground. Some imitated the beautiful movements from and attractive postures of the swans. Some sat down with the ducks sitting silently. Others imitated the dancing of the peacocks. Some boys attracted young monkeys in the trees. Some jumped into the trees, imitating the monkeys. Some made faces to them as the monkeys were accustomed to do, and others jumped from one branch to another. Some boys went to the waterfalls and crossed over the river, jumping with the frogs, and when they saw their own reflections in the water, they would laugh. They would also condemn the sounds of their own echoes. In this way, all the cowherd boys used to play with Krishna, who is the source of all Brahman effulgence. For jnanis desiring to merge into the effulgence, who is the supreme personal Godhead. For devotees who have accepted eternal servitorship, and who, for ordinary persons, is but another ordinary child. The cowherd boys, having accumulated the results of pious activities for many lives were able to associate in this way with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can one explain their great fortune? As recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami, Tasmat Kenopa Upayena Manah Krishne Niveshyat. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, first chapter, second and fourth sloka. Somehow or the other, whether one thinks of Krishna as an ordinary human child, as the source of Brahman effulgence, as the origin of Paramatma, or as the Supreme Personal Godhead, one should concentrate one's full attention upon the lotus feet of Krishna. That's also the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharma parityajyam mam ekam sharanam prajaha. Srimad Bhagavatam is the easiest way of directly approaching Krishna. Ishvara sadyo hridaya avrudyate tra kritibha surashrubi tat kshanat. Diverting even a little of one's attention toward Krishna and activities of Krishna consciousness immediately enables one to achieve the highest perfection of life. This is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. Loka. The secret of success is known. The secret of success is unknown to people in general. And therefore, Srila Vasudeva Vyasa, being compassionate toward the poor souls in this material world in Kali Yuga, especially in this age of Kali, has given us the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vishwa Vaishnavayanam Priyam. For Vaishnavas who are somewhat advanced or who are fully aware of the glories of potencies of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavatam is beloved Vedic literature. After all, we have to change this body. Tata Dehantara Praptihi. If we do not care about the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we do not know what the next body will be. But if one adheres to these two books, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, one is sure to obtain the association of Krishna in the next life. Tvakta deham punarjanma neti mam. One is sure to obtain the association of Krishna in the next life. Tvakta deham punarjanma neti mam. Eti, so Arjuna. Therefore, distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world is a great welfare activity for theologians, philosophers, transcendentalists, and yogis, as well as for people in general. Janmalabha para pushmam ante narayana smriti. See, distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam Purana is a very sacred work, very auspicious work. You are distributing the Lord of Krishna's knowledge and Krishna's katha and Krishna's leela to the other people to read. It's very auspicious. It is Vaishnava philosophy. My father is also Vaishnava, Vishnu Bhakta, and myself also following his footsteps. In my grandson's naming ceremony in Bangalore, we distributed 108 set of Bhagavata Pustaka, Bhagavatam Purana, Mahabhagavad Purana. There were two books, volume 1 and volume 2, with the Sanskrit shlokas, with the meaning full of meaning and descriptions. And these books were placed under the Lord feet of Lord Krishna. We did worship all the 108 books. We did a yajna, and we did a homa, and we did a puja for Krishna. At that time, we distributed through my mother's hand, was being given to all the devotees who came to that function. 108 copies we have distributed. I hope some of you may already aware of this fact. I don't know. As well as for people in general, Janmalabha para pushpam ante narayana smriti. If we can somehow or the other remember Krishna, Narayana at the end of life, our life will be successful. Yogis may undergo severe austerities and penances for many births by practicing yama, niyama, asana, and pranayama, none of which are easily performed. Yogis may undergo severe austerities and penances for many births by practicing yama, niyama, asana, and pranayama, none of which are easily performed. Yet in due course of time, when these yogis attain the perfection of controlling the mind, they will still be unable to taste even a particle of dust from the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then can we describe about the great fortune of the inhabitants of Rajabhumi, Brindavana, with whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally lived and who saw the Lord face to face? We can simply imagine the great fortune of the inhabitants of Brindavana. It is impossible to describe how, after many, many births of pious activities, they have become so fortunate. I think Vyasa Maharshi has written Mahabhagavat Purana, and Mahabhagavat Purana itself is Krishna for us. In Kali Yuga, we have to read Bhagavat Purana and pray for Krishna and practice Bhakti Yoga, and you are the winner. All the gods will appreciate you. So, Shuka Maharshi continuously telling the continuation. Shuka Maharshi is telling, my dear King Parikshit, thereafter there appeared a great demon named Aghasura, whose death was being awaited even by the gods. The gods drank nectar every day, but still they feared this great demon and awaited his death. This demon Aghasura could not tolerate the transcendental pleasure being enjoyed in the forest by the cowherd boys. One may ask how Krishna pastimes could be interrupted by a demon. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura answers this question by saying that although the transcendental pleasure being enjoyed by the cowherd boys in Vrindavana could not be stopped unless they stopped the transcendental pleasure of their various activities, they could not eat their lunch. Therefore, at lunchtime, Aghasura appeared by the arrangement of Yogamaya. Aghasura appeared by the arrangement of Yogamaya so that for the time being, they could stop their activities and take lunch. Changing varieties are the mother of enjoyment. The cowherd boys would continuously play. The cowherd boys would continuously play, then stop, and then again enjoy in a different way. Therefore, every day a demon would come and interrupt their sporting pastimes. The demon would be killed, and then the boys would engage again in their transcendental pastimes. Aghasura, who had been sent by Kamsa, was the younger brother of Putana and Bhakasura. Aghasura, who had been sent by Kamsa, was the younger brother of Putana and Bhakasura. Therefore, when he came and saw the Krishna at the head of all the cowherd boys, he thought, this Krishna killed my sister and brother, Putana and Bhakasura. Therefore, in order to please my brother and sister, I shall kill this Krishna along with assistants, the other cowherd boys. That's what Aghasura thought. Aghasura thought, if somehow or the other I can make Krishna and his associates serve as the last offering of sesame and water for the departed souls of my brother and sister, then the inhabitants of Rajabhumi, for whom these boys are the life and soul, will automatically die. If there is no life, there is no need for the body. Consequently, when their sons are dead, naturally all the inhabitants of Raja will also die. This is what Aghasura thought. After thus deciding, that crooked Aghasura assumed the form of a huge python, as thick as a big mountain and as long as 8 miles. Having assumed this wonderful python's body, he spread his mouth like a big cave in the mountains and lay down on the road, expecting to swallow Krishna and his associates, the cowherd boys. His lower lip rested on the surface of the earth, and his upper lip was touching the clouds in the sky. The borders of his mouth resembled the sides of a big cave in a mountain, and the middle of his mouth was as dark as possible. His tongue resembled a broad traffic way. His breath was like a warm wind, and his eyes blazed like fire. So that's what Aghasura was. Upon seeing this Aghasura wonderful form, which resembled like a great python, the boys thought it must be a beautiful scenic spot of Brindavana. Thereafter, they imagined it to be similar to the mouth of a great python. In other words, the boys, unafraid, thought that it was a statue made in the shape of a great python for the enjoyment of their pastime. Some of the boys, upon seeing this wonderful phenomena, thought that it was in fact a python, and they were fleeing from the spot. They were afraid. But others said, "Why are you fleeing? It is not possible that a python like this is staying here. This is a spot of beauty for supporting." This is what they imagined. The boy said, "Dear friends, is this creature dead, or is it actually a living python with its mouth spread wide just to swallow us all? Kindly clear up this doubt." The friends began to discuss among themselves the reality of the wonderful creature laying before them. Was it dead, or was it actually a living python trying to swallow them up? This is what the curiosity of the coward boys. Thereafter they decided, "Dear friends, this is certainly an animal sitting here to swallow us all. Its upper lip resembles a cloud reddened by the sunshine, and its lower lip resembles the reddish shadows of the cloud. On the left and right, the two depressions resembling a mountain calves are the corners of its mouth, and the high mountain peaks are its teeth. In length and breadth, the animal's tongue resembles a broad traffic way, and inside the mouth, its mouth is very, very dark, like a cave in a mountain. The hot, fiery wind was the breath coming out of his mouth, which is giving off the bad smell of burning flesh because of all the dead bodies he was eaten. Then the boy said, "Has this living creature come to swallow us? If he does so, he will immediately be killed like Bhakasura without delay." Thus they looked at the beautiful face of Krishna, the enemy of Bhakasura, and laughing loudly and clapping their hands, they entered the mouth of the python. Look at the situation now. After talking about the terrible animal this way and that way, they decided to enter the demon's mouth. They had full faith in Krishna because they had experienced how Krishna had saved them from the mouth of Bhakasura. Now there was another Asura, Aghasura. Therefore, they wanted to enjoy the sport entering the demon's mouth and being saved by Krishna, the enemy of Bhakasura. The shloka 25th, I'm going to read. Ittam mito tatyam aptyajnabashitam shrutva vichintyetya mudishta mushayate raksho viditva kila bhuta vruttataha snanam niruddham bhagavan manodadhe. This is a Sanskrit shloka given by Vyasa Maharshi, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is situated as Antaryami, the super soul in the core of everyone's heart, heard the boys talking among themselves about the artificial python. Unknown to them, it was actually Aghasura, a demon who had appeared as a python. Krishna, knowing this, wanted to forbid his associates to enter the demon's mouth. Krishna wanted to avoid them entering the mouth. In the meantime, while Krishna was considering how to stop them, all the coward boys entered the mouth of the demon. The demon, however, did not swallow them, for he was thinking of his own relatives who had been killed by Krishna and was just waiting for Krishna to enter his mouth. So the demon Aghasura was waiting for Lord Krishna to enter his mouth. The 27th shloka. Tanviksha Krishna sakalabhaya prado hanyan tatha tanatana deenascha mrityor jaratagnigasan grunardito drishtaketena vismitaha. Krishna saw that all the coward boys who did not know anyone but him as their Lord had now gone out of his hand and were helpless, having entered like straws into the fire of the abdomen of Aghasura, who was the death personified. It was intolerable for Krishna to be separated from his friends, the coward boys. Therefore, as if seeing that this had been arranged by his internal potency, Krishna was momentarily struck with wonder and unsure of what to do. Now, what has to be done? How could both the killing of this demon and the saving of the devotees be performed simultaneously? Krishna was thinking, being unlimitedly potent, decided to wait for an intelligent means by which he could simultaneously save the boys and kill the demon. Then he entered the mouth of Aghasura. Krishna is known as Anantavirya Sarvajna because everything is known to him, because he knows everything perfectly well. It was not difficult for him to find a means by which he could save the boys and at the same time kill the demon. Thus, he also decided to enter the demon's mouth. When Krishna entered the mouth of Aghasura, all the gods hidden behind the clouds exclaimed, "Alas, alas!" But the friends of Aghasura, like Kamsa and other demons, were jubilant. When Krishna entered the mouth of Bhakasura, the gods hidden behind the clouds were worried. Alas, alas, Krishna went inside the Aghasura's mouth. But the friends of Aghasura, like Kamsa and other demons, were very, very happy and jubilant. Now they are sure that Krishna will be killed in the mouth of the snake. When the invincible Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna heard the gods crying, "Alas, alas," from behind the clouds, he immediately enrolled himself within the demon's throat, just to save himself and the coward boys, his own associates from the demon who wished to smash them. Such are the acts of Krishna. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskudham. By enlarging himself within the throat of the demon, Krishna suffocated and killed him, and at the same time saved himself and his associates from imminent death, and also saved the gods for lamentation. Then, because Krishna had increased the size of his body, the demon extended his own body to a very large size. Nonetheless, his breathing stopped, he suffocated, and his eyes rolled here and there and popped out. The demon's life air, however, could not pass through any outlet. Therefore, it finally burst out through a hole in the top of the demon's head. When all the demon's life air had passed away through the hole in the top of his head, Krishna glanced over the dead cows and covered boys and brought them back to life. Then Mukunda, who can give one liberation, came out from the demon's mouth with his friends and calves. From the body of the gigantic python, a glaring effulgence came out, illuminating all directions, and stayed individually in the sky until Krishna came out from the corpse of mouth. Then as all the demigods, all the gods looked on, this effulgency entered into the Krishna's body. A small light came out of the dead body of the python, like a light of effulgence, came and entered Krishna's body. So Krishna has given liberation to Aghasura also. Apparently, the serpent named Aghasura, because of having received the association with Krishna, attained mukti by entering Krishna's body. Entering the body of Krishna is called Sayujya Mukti. But later verses prove that Aghasura, like Dantavakra and others, received Saurupya Mukti. This has been broadly described by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura with the references from the Vaishnava Tosani of Srila Jiva Goswami. Aghasura attained Saurupya Mukti, being promoted to the Vaikuntha planets to live with the same four-armed bodily features of Vishnu. The explanation of how this is so may be summarized as follows. The effulgency came out of the python's body and became purified, attaining spiritual Shuddha Sattva, freedom from material contamination. Because of Krishna had stayed within the serpent's body, even after the serpent's death, one may doubt that such a demon full of mischievous activities could attain liberation of Saurupya or Sayujya Mukti, and one may be astonished about this. But Krishna is so kind that in order to derive away such doubts, he had the effulgence, the individual life of the python. Wait for some time in its individuality, in the presence of all the gods. Krishna is the full of effulgency, and every living being is a part and parcel of that effulgency. As proved here, the effulgency in every living being is individual. For some time, the effulgency remained outside the demon's body, individually, and did not mix with the whole effulgency. That's the Brahma Jyoti. The Brahman effulgency is not visible to material eyes, but to prove that every living being is individual, Krishna had this individual effulgency stay outside the demon's body for some time, for everyone to see. Krishna had this individual effulgency stay outside the demon's body for some time for everyone to see. Then Krishna proved that anyone killed by him attains liberation, whether Sayujya or Saurupya or Samipya and whatever. But the liberation of those who are on the transcendental platform of love and affection is vimukti, special liberation. Thus, the serpent first entered the body of a Krishna personally and mixed with the Brahman effulgence. This merging is called Sayujya Mukti. But from later verses, we found that Aghasura attained Saurupya Mukti. Text 38 explains that Aghasura attained a body exactly like that of Vishnu, and that the verse after that also clearly states that he attained completely spiritual body like that of Narayana. Therefore, in 2 or 3 places in the Bhagavatam has confirmed that Aghasura attained Saurupya Mukti. One may then argue, how is it that he mixed with the Brahman effulgency? Brahman effulgency. The answer is that as Jaya and Vijaya, after 3 births, again attained Saurupya Mukti and association of the Lord, Aghasura received a similar liberation. Thereafter, everyone being pleased, the gods began to shower flowers from Nandana Khana. The celestial dancing girls began to dance, and Gandharvas, who are famous for singing, offered songs of prayer. The drummers began to beat their kettle drums, and the Brahmanas offered Vedic hymns. In this way, both in the heavens and on the earth, everyone began to perform his own duties, glorifying the Lord Krishna. Everyone has some particular duty. The Shastra has concluded, Nirupitaha, that everyone should glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his own qualifications. If you are a singer, always glorify the Supreme Lord by singing very nicely. If you are a musician, glorify the Supreme Lord by playing musical instruments. Swanushtutyasya dharmasya samsidir hari tosmanam. The perfection of life is to satisfy the personality of Godhead. Therefore, beginning from this earth up to the celestial kingdom, everyone engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The decision of all great saintly persons is whatever qualifications one has acquired should be utilized to glorify the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Learned sages have definitely concluded that the infallible purpose of this advancement of knowledge, austerity, Vedic study, sacrifice, the chanting of hymns, and charity is found in the transcendental descriptions of the qualities of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry. This is the perfection of life. One should be trained how to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead by one's respective qualities. Education, austerity, penance, or in the modern world, business, industry, education, and so on, all should be engaged in glorifying the Lord. Then everyone in the world will be happy. Krishna comes, therefore, to exhibit his transcendental activities so that people may have the chance to glorify him in every respect. To understand how to glorify the Lord is actually a research work. It is not that everything should be understood without God. That is condemned. When the Lord Brahma heard the wonderful ceremony is going on near his planet, accompanied by music and songs and sounds, Jaya Jaya, he immediately came down to see the function. Upon seeing so much glorification of Lord Krishna, he was completely astonished. Here the word Anti means near, indicating that even in the higher planetary systems near Brahmaloka, like Maharloka, Janaloka, and Taptaloka, the festival of glorification of Lord Krishna was going on. So Lord Brahma came out to see the jubilation of the covered people in Vrajabhumi. O King Parikshit, when the python-shaped body of Aghasura dried up into merely a big skin, it became a wonderful place for the inhabitants of Brindavana to visit, and it remained so far a long time ago. It remained so far a long time ago. The incident of Krishna's saving himself and his associations from the death by this python, Aghasura, and of giving deliverance to Mukti to Aghasura, who had assumed the form of python, took place when the Krishna was 5 years old. It was disclosed in Vrajabhumi after 1 year, as if it had taken place on that every day. The word mokshanam means liberation. For the associates of Krishna and for Krishna himself, there is no question about liberation. They are already liberated. Being in the spiritual world, in the material world, there are birth, death, and old age and disease. But in the spiritual world, there are no such things, because everything is eternal. As for the python, however, by the association of Krishna and his devotees, Aghasura also achieved the same facility of eternal life. Therefore, as indicated here by the word Atmahi Mokshanam, if the python Aghasura could receive eternal association with Supreme Personality of Godhead, what is to be said of those who are already associated with the Lord? Shakam Vijavru Krita Punya Punaha. Here is a proof that God is good for everyone. Even when he kills someone, the one who is killed attains liberation. What then is to be said of those who are already in the association of Lord Krishna? Krishna is the cause of all causes, the causes and effects of the material world, both higher and lower, are all created by the Supreme Lord, the original controller. When Krishna appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaja and Yashoda, he did so by his causeless mercy. Consequently, for him to exhibit his unlimited opulence was not at all wonderful. Indeed, he showed such a great mercy that even Aghasura, the most sinful miscreant, association of Kamsa, was also given moksha, was elevated to being one of his associates and achieving Saurupya Mukti, which is actually impossible for materially contaminated persons to attain. The word Maya is also used in the combination, also in the connection with love. Out of Maya, love a father has affection for his child. Therefore, the word Mayinaha indicates that Krishna, out of love, appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaja and assumed the form of human child, Manjurabha. Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is the creator of cause and effect, and he is the supreme controller. Nothing is impossible for him. Therefore, that he enabled even a living being like Aghasura to attain the salvation of Saurupya Mukti was not at all wonderful for Krishna. Krishna took pleasure in entering the mouth of Aghasura in a sporting spirit along with his associates, cowherd boys. Therefore, then Aghasura, by that sporting association, has maintained the spiritual world, has purified of all contamination. He attained Saurupya Mukti and Vimukti by the grace of Lord Krishna. For Krishna, this was not at all wonderful. If even only once or even by force, one brings the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into one's mind, one can attain the supreme salvation by the mercy of Krishna, as did Aghasura. What then is to be said of those whose hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters when he appears as an incarnation, are those who always think of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the source of transcendental bliss for all living entities, and by whom all illusion is completely removed. The process for receiving the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is described here. Yat pada pankaja palasa vilasa bhaktya. Simply by thinking of Krishna, one can attain him very easily. Krishna is also described as having his lotus feet as always within the hearts of his devotees. Bhagavan Bhakta Hrudi Sthitaha. In the case of Aghasura, one may argue that he is not a devotee. The answer to this is that he thought of Krishna for a moment with devotion. Bhaktyaham ekya graha. grahyaha. Without devotion, one cannot think of Krishna. And conversely, whenever one thinks of Krishna, one undoubtedly has devotion. Although Aghasura's purpose was to kill Krishna, for a moment Aghasura thought of Krishna with devotion, and Krishna and his associates wanted to sport with Aghasura's mouth. Similarly, Putana wanted to kill Krishna by poisoning him, but Krishna took her as his mother because he had accepted the milk from her breast. Swalpam apya asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhyat. Especially when Krishna appears as an avatara, anyone who thinks of Krishna in this different incarnations, Namadi Murtisu Kala Niyamena Tishtatan, and especially in his original form, as Krishna attains salvation, his original form as Krishna attains salvation. There are many instances of this, and among them is Aghasura, who attained salvation of Saurabhya Mukti. Therefore, the process is Satatam Kritiyano Mama Yatansas Cha Dridhavrataha. Those who are devotees always engage in glorifying Krishna, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anandim, Anantarupam. When we speak of Krishna, we refer to all his avatars, such as Krishna, Govinda, Narayana, Vishnu, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, Balarama, and Shyamasundara. One who always thinks of Krishna attains vimukti, special salvation as the Lord's personal associate. Not necessarily in Vrindavana, but at least in Vaikuntha. This is called Saurabhya Mukti. Suta Maharshi said to the saints in the Naimisharanya, O learned saints, the childhood pastimes of Sri Krishna are very wonderful. Maharaja Parikshit, after hearing about these pastimes of Krishna by Shuka Maharshi, who had saved him in the womb of his mother, became steady in his mind and again inquired from the Shukadeva Goswami to hear about those pious activities. Maharaja Parikshit inquired, O great sage, how could things done in the past have been described as being done at the present? Lord Sri Krishna performed this pastime of killing Aghasura during his Kaumara age, at the age of only 5-year-old. How then during his Pagonda age could the boys have described this incident as having happened recently? O greatest yogi, my spiritual master, kindly describe why this happened. I am very much curious to know about it. I think that it is nothing but another illusion due to Krishna. Krishna has many potencies. Parasya Shakti Vidaiva Shruyate. Shvetastutara. The description of Aghasura was disclosed after 1 year. Some act Krishna's potency must have been involved. Therefore, Maharaja Parikshit was very curious to know about this, and he requested Shukadeva Goswami to explain it. O my Lord, my spiritual master, although we are the lowest of Kshatriyas, we are glorified and benefited because we have the opportunity of always hearing about the nectar of the pious activity of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Sutta Puranika said to Shaunaka and other saints in Naimisharanya and devotees, when Maharaja Parikshit inquired from Shuka Maharshi in this way, Shuka Maharshi, immediately remembering subject matters about Krishna within the core of his heart, externally lost contact with the actions of his senses. Thereafter, with a great difficulty, he revived his external sensory perception and began to speak to Maharaja Parikshit about Krishna Katha. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 10th canto, 12th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Killing of the Demon Aghasura and Providing Moksha for Aghasura also. Namostu Anantaya Sahasramurtaye Sahasrapadakshirva Sahasranamne Purushashtaye Sahasrakoti Yugadarane Namaha Sri Sahasrakoti Yugadarane Namaha Akashat Paridam Medagat Sagram Sarvadeva Namaskaraha Sri Kesham Priyatyo Namaha Sarvamedeshat Punyam Sarvatirtesh Atparam Tatparam Pushmapte Vasanat Vasdevasya Vasante Jetram Sarvabhutane Vasvazi Vasdev Muste Kayena Vacha Manasendriyarva Buddhatnama Prakute Sabhava Karomi Adyak Sagalam Parasmai Narayanaya Samarpayami Narayanaya. This ends the 12th chapter. We are going to 13th chapter. In the 13th chapter, we are going to 13th chapter tomorrow, in which we are going to discuss about defeating the Brahma's plan to disappear the cowards, boys, and everybody in Rajabhumi. Brahma make a trick to hide these all the boys in the cover, and at that time Lord Krishna came in the form of all the children, all the cowards, and all the cows and calves, and Krishna expansions came and resembles them and keep them for a while until the Brahma's illusion is clear. That's what we are going to discuss tomorrow. Thank you very much.